the She-cession and turn it into a She-covery.
While on the campaign trail, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau pandered like hell in the most cringe way imaginable while discussing the need for affordable childcare. Check this out.
For kids to get an opportunity to succeed to a maximal level with quality early learning and childcare. It is exactly the example of the kinds of things you need to do to counter the She-cession and turn it into a She-covery. Fact is, the Conservatives don't talk about that in their lengthy platform. They don't talk about feminism. They don't talk about the impact on women of this crisis.
All right. Now, I will get to the policy in a minute, as that is the most important part of all of this. But this is so lame. Yes, the recession has hit women more than men. There's no issue acknowledging that, discussing that. But to then condescend and pander in the most lame way possible, using made-up words, she-cession and she-covery, I just think it counteracts their message. It doesn't help them. This turns off more people than it turns on. And this isn't the first time he has done this. Now, as I'll get to the policy, and this ultimately shouldn't affect your vote, whoever it's for, as you know, the policy is what ultimately matters. But the reality is, this stuff does bother people. If you show this clip, this Trudeau clip, to someone in your life, to like an uncle or a dad, or really anybody who's not all that into politics, but you know, kind of follows it or is going to vote, I guarantee you the vast majority of people will find that clip incredibly cringy. It just doesn't help them. It's so useless. And he's done something like this before. So I covered this back in 2018. I have you'll get what's going on here.
Maternal love is the love that's going to change the future of mankind. So we'd like you to look
we like to say people kind, not necessarily mankind, because it's more inclusive.
There we go, exactly. Yes, thank you.
We can all learn from each other.
People kind. People kind. Now, I guess to his credit, he came out later on and saying or claiming that it was a dumb joke after there was all this backlash to that clip. I really don't think he was joking, but then he utilized it. Everyone laughed at him. So he utilized the opportunity to claim that it was a dumb joke. I don't think he was joking. He's been doing this forever. This is one of his staples, is trying to, it's all about pandering with words, pandering with symbolism. And when it gets to the actual policy, that's where they fall short. That said, I will get to their childcare policy. Before I do that, I just want to show you the polls right now. Liberals are dropping. So Trudeau called this unnecessary election, the snap election. There was no need for it, but he called it because he wants a majority government. Right now he has a minority, and they are dropping. So if they end up losing their minority, calling this election where they could have stayed in power this entire year, it will be just ridiculous and show you that the decision to call an election for Trudeau was a horrible idea. But let's get to the policy now. The policy on childcare, which is what the discussion around this She-cession and She-covery was about. So let's get to each of the plans. The Conservative platform document explained that the party would replace the Liberal system by converting the existing childcare expense deduction into a refundable tax credit to cover up to 75% childcare costs for low-income families. The Liberals' plan, announced in the last federal budget, will see the government spend $30 billion over 5 years in an effort to bring the federal government to a 50-50 cost sharing for childcare with the provinces and territories. Once that money has been spent, the Liberals say they will budget $8.3 billion annually to sustain a program providing parents with access to childcare for $10 a day, no matter where they live in the country. The NDP are also promising to build a universal $10 a day childcare system across the country. Like the Liberal plan, the NDP proposal will put money toward creating more childcare spaces and improving the pay workers in the field receive to ensure retention and a better quality of service. Now, we'll get to someone's thoughts on an expert's thoughts on these plans in a second, but I think it's clear here, at least in terms of what's being said so far, that the NDP plan is the best one. So not only is it $10 a day, it's also more of a focus on ensuring that workers are paid well so that they can create more childcare spaces. That is ultimately one of the biggest issues facing parents, is that there's a lack of spaces. So by investing more and creating those spaces and paying people more that do this job to ensure that those jobs are filled, I think the NDP have the best plan here. But let's get to an expert's thoughts on this. So Mornia Ballantine, the executive director of Childcare Now, a national childcare advocacy group, told CBC News the Liberal and NDP plans will work better because they are seeking to build a system of regulated childcare costs across the country where all families would have equal, affordable access to high-quality childcare. Quote, the Conservative plan will not address the huge problem we have with respect to supply of regulated childcare spaces, she said. There is just a huge shortage of childcare spaces in Canada, and that's true in every jurisdiction. Transferring a bit more money every month to parents does nothing to actually increase supply. So there you go. There's an expert's opinion, and I agree with the experts. So I think it's obvious the NDP plan is the best. Liberals their plan is also fairly solid considering it's the Liberal Party. But it's just when you start gendering terms that don't need to be gendered, ultimately I think it just has a negative impact on the entire messaging and the ability to reach out to voters, as often, this sort of language, that the first impression that people have of Trudeau is that he's very fake, very phony, and stuff like this only helps their argument.